you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
all in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche. And after 22 years, Raymond
The sickest NHL podcast. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here on the Sick Podcast Network. He is Pierre McGuire. I am Jimmy Murphy. Pierre, before we get into all the hockey and our guest today, I just want to send a heartfelt condolences out to the family of Sean Simpson. I know you knew him well from his time with TSN 1200. He passed away last night. We got that news last night, and it's some tough news, you know, and I see a lot of people in the hockey community, specifically in Ottawa right now, pouring out their emotions and support. And, you know, we want to let his family and his friends know that we're thinking of them.
Yeah, no, well said by you, Jimmy. I worked with Sean for probably 6 or 7 years, I think, but I knew him really well. I knew him when he was working for the Washington Capitals. I used to travel around with him on the scouting trail a fair bit. Knew him when he worked for the Maple Leafs. I knew that he spent time over in Russia as a general manager. So I knew him. And then obviously I had the opportunity to work with him and John Rodenberg up in Ottawa. I would work with John probably 22 or 23 years. And then, you know, not as long with the situation with Sean. But, yeah, no, Sean, the one thing I always respected about Sean is he laid it out there.
Yeah, he did.
He didn't try to hide from anybody that he had some issues. And, you know, the last time I actually had a conversation with him, he was not doing really well. And that would probably been 2.5 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. And he was really straightforward and upfront, and he was prepared to battle to get better. And I respected that very much about him.
Yeah.
But obviously, when you and I talked last night, when we got that news from our great production team in Montreal, you know, at first I didn't believe it. And then you hear it and you're like, okay, this is not good. This isn't good.
Yeah. You know, and obviously he dealt with some issues. And, you know, it's moments like these, Pierre. I know we say it in these moments, but we don't say enough. You know, for everyone out there, anyone going through anything, don't be afraid to ask for help. No. I mean, Sean fought, and you know, unfortunately, he's passed, but he did try. He did try to get help, and I urge anyone out there right now that's going through it. We're always here. You want to hit me up on Twitter? Go ahead. I don't care. I'm always here for you. So
if you want to hit me up through Jimmy, and I promise. Like, I don't do the Twitter stuff, but I promise I'll get back to you. Look, Jimmy, I've shared this before. I'm not afraid to do it. My dad was my best friend. My dad had a huge drinking issue. And I remember when I would have been just starting out my coaching career. I'd just been released by New Jersey and sent to the minors, and I didn't go. I didn't report. And we did an intervention and got my dad to rehab in Minnesota. And I never saw my dad happier than the last 25 years of his life. So, you know, like, and he was a strong, powerful guy, but he battled through all this stuff, and he realized, you know what, I can't live like this anymore.
Yeah.
And so I tell everybody that I know in hockey, outside of hockey, former teammates, whatever, like, if you need help, like, I'll talk to you. You know, like, I had cancer 7 years ago.
Yeah.
I've talked to so many people that have called me just because we've done stuff publicly. Same thing for people that are having a hard time. Don't be afraid to get in touch with Jimmy or me. Seriously, don't be afraid. We're just little small parts of the puzzle, but we'll help. We'll help as best we can.
You know, it sounds corny, but I mean, when it comes down to it, we're all in this together. You know, and we got to be there for each other. I've dealt with it with some of my family members as well, Pierre, and you know that. I've spoken to you about that.
Yep.
So it's a tough thing. And then Pierre, another, unfortunately, not to keep going on stuff here, but that tragedy with that plane crash too. And now the news coming out that some of these victims were world champion figure skaters, and big part of the community, specifically in Boston. I just saw the Bruins release a tweet mentioning this. And I know, Pierre, over the years, you worked in the Olympics, and did you cross paths with any of these athletes?
I'm sure I did. I didn't know, because to be fair, when you do hockey at the Olympics, it's 24/7. You're like a doctor. You're on call 24/7. You're not paying attention to anything, any other. You read it, but you're not watching it. You're watching what you're doing. And all the Olympics I did men's and women's hockey. So that's a hefty schedule. You're loaded up. So I know I read the same columns you did, Jimmy. I'm glad you brought it up. But I found out about that after the Sean news.
Yeah,
And
me too.
what happened was I had just finished working late last night with our friend Julie Stewart-Binks on Bet Rivers Toronto Sports Rush after the Leaf game with Minnesota. And I started getting ready to watch other games. And then I saw this stuff come across my phone. And I was like, uh-oh. I don't think first person I sent a note to, I said, is that true? Like,
Yeah.
did that with Sean? And I said, did that really, like, did he pass away? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I went and tried to check and I didn't see anything. So I said, okay. And then boom, the airplane crash. And I was like, oh no, that's brutal. And, you know, I haven't been following it today because I've been traveling, but oh my gosh, it's crushing to see that and hear that. And you're like, what the heck?
Yeah. Yeah. So life is short, live it. And as we said, we're always here for you if you need us. Listen, we got a great show coming up, a great guest, an old friend of mine, Todd Carroll of Premier Sports Advisors, helps out a lot of college players, a lot of kids looking to get to college and play college hockey as well. I was with him last week at CT Ice, which, by the way, Pierre, by all accounts, from our friend Eric Oppen, did a great job, raised a ton of money for charities and for also helping underprivileged kids be able to play hockey, because we all know how expensive the game of hockey has become. And it's a great cause what they do. They're trying to help the kids that want to play, but just maybe don't have enough money to continue to the next levels. That's what they do at CT Ice. And I was really, and with the Connecticut Hockey Foundation, I was really glad that Eric reached out to us and I was able to be part of that last week. Met a lot of great people, saw a lot of old faces in the hockey world. I mentioned I was with Kevin Stevens a lot, watched the first game with him. And then I, ran into Todd as well. And he tried to come on, but we had some sound issues. So I figured I'll get him on this week. And Todd also has dabbled in acting as well. And, he's going to have some stories for us where kind of the hockey world and Hollywood intertwine. And I think our listeners and viewers will find it interesting and quite comical as well. But Pierre, some games last night. I know one, you said you were focused on that Leafs game last night. I know a lot of people are kind of freaking out in Toronto right now, but I thought you kind of put it best when we were talking earlier. You know what? They just need to get out on the road right now. They just need to be with the team, little bonding, and they'll find their way right before the Four Nations. It's just one of those games. I mean, I didn't watch the whole game, but the parts that I did, you can tell me more in depth. They just look flat, and a credit to Minnesota. They took advantage of it.
They hit 2 goalposts too.
Yeah.
Matthews hit one, Nylander hit one, and I got to say that Minnesota played a real good game. They played a tremendous road game.
Yeah.
Like Minnesota was really good. And people don't want to listen to this in Toronto, but it's a fact. When you don't have John Tavares and you don't have Matthew Nyes, you're missing a lot of components, and guys are playing out of roles.
Yes.
So I think when they get everybody back, this is going to be a good team. And from our talk with our good friend Keith Tully yesterday, they're not sitting back. They're not sitting back. They are going ahead. And they will be active going into the trade deadline. They will be.
We're going to bring on Todd in a second here. But one thing I want to say there, I told you, last night when we were talking that I had a friend of mine who's a Leafs fan. He says, you didn't ask him anything about Mitch Marner. And I just said to him, I said, go back and watch that interview again, because there was a part where he was talking about the NHL
salary cap, hard cap, salary cap. He
spoke about things without exactly saying them. Just go back and you'll see what I mean. For anyone that, was kind of like, why didn't that come up? You go back and listen to it carefully. He doesn't want to be the guy.
He doesn't want to be the guy making the news.
Exactly.
He wants to be the guy that's just running the team. So what he's giving it to you subliminally is, there's a thing called a cap in our league, and it's called a hard cap in our league. And our hard cap works in our league. Like, he couldn't have said it more times. We're not going to break the cap. We need to have other players.
And Pierre calls me and he's like, hey, you got that, right? I'm like, oh yeah, I felt it loud and clear. Don't you worry. But you know what? One person who does know Mr. Keith Pelly very well is joining us right now. And that's, as I said, Todd Carroll. Join us here on the ITS from Premier Sports Advisors. Todd, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We got you.
Yeah, I'm doing great to be on here. It's good to see you guys again.
Yeah, for sure. It's great bumping into you last week. You know what, Todd? We do have a little echo there. I'm not sure if it's on your end or not. Just if you can check that.
Let's see here. Is it still echoey?
No, that's good.
Okay.
No, we're good. We're good.
All right,
Perfect.
good.
Perfect. So how you doing today? Good?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm just had practice last night for my Quebec Pee Wee tournament, and Pierre. I got Jimmy Dowd and Dougie Janik on my staff right now, so that's a hell of a staff for a Pee Wee team. So
you got a great Lake Superior State guy, and you got a great University of Maine guy, and they're both awesome guys. I used to love seeing Dougie on the road. Dougie Janik, such a tough guy, good defender, great person. Mm-hmm. And I can't say enough about Jimmy Dowd from Toms River, New Jersey. Can't say enough about Jimmy.
He is the best. We were 2 years ago. We planned to play the Minutemen Flames. They were number 2 team in the country up in the Quebec tournament, and we were up 3-1. They called a penalty shot. They scored on it. We ended up upsetting them. And in the hallway, I said, "Jimmy, all right?" He goes, "I haven't been that nervous since Game 7 in '94 against the Rangers." I mean, and he's back for more this year. It was hilarious. So he's one of the best guys I've ever been around the kids. He's unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, he appreciates it, right, Todd? He appreciates what he's gotten out of hockey. So here's what you're going to say to him. You're going to say, "Jimmy, it's been widely reported that you're the first New Jersey-born player or person to ever win the Stanley Cup." And you're going to say to him, "No, that's not accurate. The first New Jersey-born person to ever win the Stanley Cup is Pierre McGuire. Even though he grew up in Canada, he was born in the Englewood Hospital in Bergen County, New Jersey." So you remind that to Jimmy Dowd. I'm mad at you.
I'll definitely let him know for sure. I'll be talking to him. He's on the road to Miami of Ohio right now, so he'll be talking all day on the way out there.
Janik was on that '99 team, right, for Maine that won it? Am I mistaken?
Yeah. No, great player, great guy, great hockey mind. He's an unbelievable guy to talk about the pro scouting, and just has a real good handle on evaluating players, and just got a really good eye for Nashville and pieces and what you think is going to be the right fit for them going forward.
He is a big, solid, thick guy. Like when you meet him, you're like, this guy's big. He's a big guy.
Young Jr.'s on my team, and he's going to be a player, right-handed shot D. That's, once he smooths out the edges as he gets older. But keep an eye on him. He's a big boy.
So, Todd, are you bringing the Mid-Fairfield group up, or what team are you representing?
Yeah, so I have my own team, the New England Prospects. This will be my 16th year doing it. Originally, we had the Arby's Avalanche, and we had Team Wendy's, and then we graduated. I won it a couple of years, and we moved on up to the top bracket. So I've been in the top bracket. I have my own bid. So we will be going up against the Mid-Fairfields of the world and stuff like that. But, yeah, this will be my 16th year going, and it's funny. Every year I'm trying to recruit a kid, and they're like, "God, I don't know if I want to go." And I said, "Here's the deal. I can go a lot of places in February. I'm very fortunate. And for the last 16 years, I've chosen to go up to Quebec City with a group of people I don't know, and I drag my wife up there, and it always falls on Valentine's Day. So if that doesn't give you a good indication how special this opportunity is, and I always win that recruiting battle. Trust me when I tell you."
Yeah.
Hey, Jimmy, I love the fact that Todd's saying this stuff.
Yep.
I've had the privilege of watching my daughter do unbelievable things in athletics and my son do amazing things in athletics. But I'll never forget, Chris Draper called me up. I was doing a game in Chicago. And he says, "McGuire, you're not in Ottawa or not in Quebec City." I said, "No, I'm doing a game in Chicago." He goes, "You got to be here tomorrow." I go, "Why?" He says, "Your son's team just upset Syracuse. And you're going into the semifinal of the Quebec Pee Wee tournament, and you got to be here." So I called the people at NBC as soon as the game was over. I said, "Do you guys mind if I miss a game tomorrow that you can get somebody else?" And they said, "Yeah." So I actually flew to Montreal. I rented a car, drove up there, met my wife, who was amazing. Without my wife, my kid doesn't play hockey. Our child doesn't play hockey. And I go there, and I'm sitting in the Coliseum. Todd knows. You guys don't play in the Coliseum anymore, do you?
No. We lost Todd Hassan. You got it?
But you're not in the Coliseum anymore, are you, right, Todd?
No, we're in the Videotron
Center.
Yeah.
So I had coached so many games in the old Coliseum. So I was walking in there, and I was like, "What? I never sat upstairs. I always was at ice level."
Yeah.
So you're sitting in the stands and you're watching, like, I would never. I'm so glad I didn't miss this. And I'm so proud of Todd. Like, this is an amazing thing to be a part of. It is. It's amazing.
And I feel obligated to give back to the kids, to show them the way. I kind of got the lay of the land. We're driving up. We're stopping in Drummondville, so we're going to play where the Voltigeurs play and stop there. And then, I just kind of have that trip down like the back of my hand. And the Chateau Frontenac is basically a second home. When my son was in kindergarten, he would tell all the teachers he lived in a castle there, and we had to go in for a meeting, and they're like, "Hey, your son keeps saying he lives in a castle." I said, "Well, yes and no. It was a formal castle, but I'm looking forward to it."
So you got to go to Cafe de la Paix. I'm sure you've been there across the street.
Oh yeah.
And then you got to go to the Continental, which is a really good place right across
yeah.
the street. And then late night when the children are sleeping, you're going to go to the Dagobert.
Oh yeah, always. That's
okay,
Are you in my phone, Pierre? You got my itinerary.
No, and then there's one more, and one that hockey guys didn't go to. My wife found it. It's called Charbonneau. It's a barbecue place in the train station, but it's not barbecue. It's like cooked on coals.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It's in the train station in Quebec City, and I'm telling you right now, it's an amazing steakhouse.
I've been there. Last time I was there, Michel Goulet came up and he heard me talking, and he walked up to me. He goes, "Where are you from?" I said, "Well, Connecticut." He goes, "I'm a whaler killer." he just talked about it. Yeah, I said, "Okay, sure enough. I believe you. I watched there." Richard Gordon. I went to Avon with Dave Gordon, so I was in and around the Whalers all the time, and they renovated the Avon rink there, and all the NHL teams would practice there, so it was great.
Jimmy, David Gordon. Quite a few days there. Hey, Jimmy, David Gordon's claim to fame at Boston College kicked the winning field goal at South Bend against Notre Dame.
David Gordon. Okay. I remember that vividly. That was 1993, and Notre Dame had just beat Florida State. They were undefeated, number one in the country. I remember that very well.
Yeah, I was working for his father.
Yeah.
I was working for his father. It was pretty cool.
That's great. Yeah, and that's a great tournament for anyone that hasn't been there. If you even just to go up there, any hockey fan should experience it. I was just actually, guys, they were, there's a lot of talk, obviously, with what happened with Ottawa about Quebec City getting another team and all that. And so there was a story there, and I was looking in a Quebec newspaper, and apparently you guys will be able to tell me because I've never been up for the tournament. But during the tournament, they hang the kids' sticks in the village, I guess, on the telephone wires. I mean, it's an amazing thing, and they really welcome. You could see how much they welcome the kids and the families in. So that's awesome, Todd.
Yeah.
You're gonna have a great time.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Todd, so before we get into it here, just tell us a bit about your company and how you got into it and representing up and coming hockey players.
Working in Hollywood, as you know, and Rescue Me, and the writers went on strike, and so I was just trying to find some work there because we didn't really know when it was going to kind of get solved. So I kind of got in the more traditional agency side of things, looking for the Tage Thompsons of the world. And then I really noticed there was a lot of families that still needed the same support that weren't going to be NHL players. So I started Premier Sports Advisors, more like a consulting firm to get kids. And that portion of the agency was more kind of full pay walk-on Division I players, a lot of NESCAC kids, and even we placed a lot of kids in the club hockey realm. And so it was very, very rewarding. And as those kids graduated, a lot of these kids were trying to start companies and stuff like that. And really not by design, I started kind of becoming, as Keith Pelly calls me, a connector. Kids looking to raise money or wanted some help with strategic advising, kind of like companies like Live Barn, or even when Sacred Heart brought me in on the arena there. So it's kind of pivoted more, into sports and entertainment consulting. And then, when I met Keith Pelly, we partnered up on the Birmingham City thing in terms of the fundraising. So there's still a few kids I'm working with, but, I'm kind of pivoting out of that. And, as my kids getting older now, it gets harder and harder to put the focus on everybody else, so it's been a good transition, but, it's been fun and very rewarding.
Yep. Yeah, I want to know, Todd, your take in the role you were playing, how that might have the NCAA CHL agreement, how that's affecting, advisors and agents right now, specifically dealing with kids coming into college and kids in college right now.
Yeah, it's really, really challenging. As you know, I mean, when you just look at the numbers, right? There's only 60 Division I teams, and now, you got 200 kids in the portal plus, and then essentially you have 1,200, CHL players more or less available, not all of them. So the influx of players into that market now is going to, push a lot of people down. So back in the day, when kids, at least with my clients, when we were kind of kicking tires to see if a Division I opportunity was going to be available, there was always kind of, and I hate to say a backup plan because the NESCACs aren't backup plans academically, but you could kind of, leverage those as an opportunity, quite like when I went to Trinity, when I didn't want to go play 2 years at juniors. Now, even those, the Middleburys, the Bowdens, and all those schools, Hobart. I mean, Hobart should be in the Atlantic Hockey League right now, the way they're going, quite frankly. So it's really gonna push the market down. And when you look at some of these club teams out there right now, you got to think some of these schools have to be thinking, because they can be easily populated with some really good teams, just like Augustana or Stonehill or some of these other Division I. So it's good timing on my part to kind of be pivoting out of it. It wasn't by design, but it's a really tough racket right now, especially for the not full scholarship kids. And then also, my bread and butter was kind of the full pay walk-ons like Pat McGregor or Kevin Lohan, who we can go to BU or Michigan and say, hey, we're willing to come in and work for money, if you will. Well, Michigan goes to 26 scholarships now, and their 14th forward is a full pay he's a full scholarship 3rd round pick. So there's a lot of elements there that are going to impact this thing. And, I feel bad for some of these older kids, the 06s and 05s and stuff right now, where, they've been working their whole lives to go play college hockey, and there's just there's not places to go, so it's a really tricky time. And I think really the catalyst or the tipping point will be, when you look at the 40-man camp this year for the U.S. National Team Development Program, and when you see, okay, are some kids going to go to the NTDP? Are they going to go major junior? I think that's going to be a real moment when you're going to say, okay, how is this really impacting the U.S. market?
What about expansion of Division I college hockey, especially into the Southeastern Conference? I mean, I'm watching what's going on with these club teams at Clemson or University of Georgia or University of South Carolina. There's got to be an appetite, I think, at some point when you get 10,000 people to a club hockey game, which is what those schools are doing, for them to go Division I. I mean, if you're pulling 10,000 people a night in Division I, you're making money.
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring that up. One of the ventures I'm working right now is we are raising money with a few partners right now, and we are going to go around, and we've already started talking to some universities that strategically, where some of, as Gretzky would say, don't go where the puck is, where the puck's going to be. So you look out west, like, and even and down south. But to your point, I remember I was playing down in Louisville, and my roommate for camp, it said he played for Arizona at University of Arizona. And I was like, what? This is 1994. And I had gotten released. I was in Wichita, and I went to see him, and I couldn't believe even back then they had 10,000 for a club game there at Arizona, and now you have Arizona State there. So for, like you said, Pierre, with the University of Georgia, you got UNC there. So I think for sure there's going to be some expansion. It's just, how soon they get those programs up and running. And just look what UNLV did with Denver. It's just and you got Vegas there. You got to think Utah. And some of those markets out there that are going to be kind of tied in, with the Kraken and everything. So I agree with you. I think there's definitely going to be some expansion, and I think it's a good idea because there's players available, good ones.
100%. I agree. I totally agree.
Switching gears, Todd, I was telling our listeners and viewers and Pierre before you came on that, and you mentioned you've done some acting work. You were in Rescue Me a few times. And I was just talking about how, and I didn't really see it until I met you and started to know what you were doing with Rescue Me and how much the hockey world and Hollywood intertwine at times. I mean, you've got Jerry Bruckheimer, who's now part owner of the Seattle Kraken. I know you've known Jerry for a while. But you told me some pretty good stories before. One of them today about Cam Neely when you're on the set with Rescue Me. I want you to get into that.
Yeah. So, so Dennis and I had worked on a couple shows before that, but, I played Dennis a nemesis.
Everyone that doesn't know too, by the way.
Yeah, I played a nemesis of Dennis's. I was a police officer, and how the firemen and police officers, especially the hockey folks there. So we had an episode, and Cam Neely was playing Mungo Monahan. What a name! Phyllis, yeah, Mungo. I mean, I wanted to ask Dennis, where did this come from? I don't know if I want to know the answer, but Lyndon Byers is there, and Phyllis Vizito. So, there's a scene there where Dennis and I are going at it, and we're ad-libbing. And at one point, he tries to fight me, and I say I don't fight third-line guys, and it stung him. Like it stung Dennis. So eventually there's a big hit where Mungo takes my head off, and most of the other actors there, they had stuntman. And I'm like, I'm not doing a stuntman. I'm a hockey guy, but somebody forgot to tell Cam that I wasn't a stuntman. And we went through this, we rehearsed it. And let me tell you something. I don't know if I've ever been hit harder in my life. And they cut to it and they're like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "He's one of the actors." And I must have been that bad of an actor for him to think I was a stuntman, because he unloaded on me and he felt terrible. And I still, if I saw him today and he remembered, but yeah, I got completely, drilled. And hockey, I'd love to sit here and say, my acting skills were great, but hockey got me in the door with Dennis, and then eventually with Jerry Bruckheimer. And that whole Bad Boys skate on Sunday nights was phenomenal. I mean, I skated. Igor Larianos was on my line every Sunday night, and then we had the IMG, which is now the CAA skate, that was on Monday. So for me, who was working actor on a show, but had a cachet and a resume of playing hockey, it was great, because I just was able to kind of be a part of both worlds there. And I always tell people I got 1 foot in hockey and 1 foot in Hollywood, and that's just the truth.
I wonder if Neely knew that you didn't go to Trinity, which is in West Hartford, Connecticut, and maybe he said, "Oh, he's from there, so maybe he knows Ulf Samuelsson, and I'm going to make him pay for Ulf."
Yeah, probably. I'll tell you, Pierre, when I went down and tried out in Louisville and Wichita, they gave me the name. My nickname was D3 all the time. And John Dunham, to this day, I'm forever indebted to him. And, you talk about Keith Pelly. I met him through Jay Monahan, and that network of Trinity folks is, I'll always be, I gave him a lot of gray hair, and Andre Lacroix was my assistant there. And he would just laugh, because I forgot you had to go to class at times. Somebody left that part out of it, certain days,
Well, just so our listeners know, Andre Lacroix was a great hockey player and was obviously a former Whaler. And John Dunham was a goalie at Brown University, but he is a legendary college coach at Trinity College in West Hartford. And I'll tell you what, Jimmy, I used to be on the road with Coach Dunham a lot. And most of the guys in the NESCAC, Terry Mahar at Bowdoin really worked it hard. But most of the other guys kind of sat back and let the kids come to them. Not John Dunham. No. He went and got the kids.
I got a great story, Pierre. And I know you guys got to run, but I was at Avon.
We're good.
Yeah, it was my senior year at Avon. I had a really good career there, and there were some Division I schools that were kicking around, and Frank Serratori was trying to get me, out to Omaha, because the NESCACs were sniffing around, and obviously they knew, I wasn't going to probably get on my own, but they knew, hey, we're going to use an admissions tip on them. So, I go up to Union, and it was their first year D1, and I still don't know why Bruce Delventhal brought me up there, but they brought me up there during the trimester on March. Now, with all due respect to people in Schenectady, I have family there. On a sunny, clear day there, it looks like Chernobyl. So in the first week of March, I'm walking around. There's no students on there, and I get out of there, and my dad's like, "What do you want to do?" So we're scheduled to fly out to Omaha, and all of a sudden I get a call from Scott Letty, great guy. He was at Trinity. He was
I know him well.
There. And Brian Letty and I played together. So he invites me to spring weekend. So I show up to spring weekend, third week of April, and I walk out into the quad, and there's girls in bikinis throwing Frisbees around. And I'm looking around going, oh my God. And so I commit. And I later found out that Dunham basically did a workaround to get me there. And Joe Yannetti, Pierre, the famed scout.
Very well. I know Joe.
I saw him later out at Camrose, I think, and he's like, "Todd Carroll, I still don't know how you ended up at Trinity. You had opportunities." I said, "Mr. Yannetti, with all due respect, if you saw what I saw on that day in the quad, you would have done the same thing Andre Lacroix did. You would have been a volunteer assistant. Trust me when I tell you." So there you go. And I'm glad I did.
That's a legendary story. So Jimmy, I'll just give you one on Joe Yannetti. Joe Yannetti is a Vietnam vet.
Yep.
Scouted was a legendary coach at St. John's Prep in Boston. Scouted for the Winnipeg Jets forever. He's the guy that picked Keith Tkachuk. And the reason they got Keith Tkachuk out of Malden Catholic, he had injured his ankle his draft year. He actually broke his ankle. The only guy that had really seen him a ton was Joe. Joe, that was his legendary pick. It's an amazing story. Joe Yannetti, just to back Todd up on this, Joe Yannetti's one son, who works for the LA Kings now, he went to Williams College, which is a huge rival of Trinity. So I can't believe Joe would actually give you poop for going to a NESCAC.
It's unbelievable. And the other Mark Yannetti, his brother played it, and we used to call him Sidewinder. He had this curve when he would dump the puck in. I'm telling you, if he shot it out into the field, it would go all the way around and come back to you. And he would catch goalies on a dump in because it would just bang a right and go almost in the net. So if you ever see him, his nickname Sidewinder. To this day.
I had both Yannetti boys at Europa Cup. And in the Europa Cup in those years, Jeremy Roenick, Billy Guerin, Scotty LaChance, Sean McEachran, Bobby Kellogg. I can go down the line, all these amazing players. We had these kids for Tony Amonte. We had these kids 2 and 3 years at a time. Stephen Hines. Like, I can keep going down the line. David Emma. Like, It was crazy how many players we had every summer.
Yeah.
And Joe Yannetti's 2 boys, who both went to Williams, were big parts of it.
Wow. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Now, are you still doing anything with Leary, Todd?
We've talked a little bit. He called me up. There was a show that he was attached to, and he's always trying to kind of get me to come back in. And we talked a little bit. And he's like, "Hey, you ready? You ready for the camera?" I said, "No, I'm out of shape." And he said, "How bad?" I said, "I wear a T-shirt in the pool right now, Dennis. That's all I need to tell you." So if you want me back on camera, I need a little more lead time right now because I'm aging like a fine yogurt here.
So now let's get serious for 1 second.
Yeah.
I know you went to Avon, and one of my real good friends is the legend, John Gardner. How's Coach doing? Because I know he's been in a battle.
Yeah, he, it's tough to talk about. All of us, the Avon crew is a very, very tight crew. So he's been around the rink a little bit. He's kind of be very careful, but he's in a fight right now of his life, and he's hanging in there. But it's tough. We was talking to Jeff Hamilton yesterday, and we were just all calling, just kind of a support group. But I played for John for 4 years, and I'll tell you one thing that people don't know about John Gardner. He was the best teacher I have ever had, and I'm talking. Nobody will believe me that I was an AP algebra, but I was. But he was a great teacher, like off the ice and everything. And when I moved back from LA, I made a point to help get players there, and I was around John quite a bit, but didn't play a lot of golf with him. But he's in a fight right now, and he's been around the rink a little bit, but he's holding in there.
Please tell him I said hello, Todd. Jimmy, the best player I ever saw play at Avon Old Farms was a guy named Brian Leach. His defense partner was a guy named Rod Brascia, who went to RPI. I recruited 2 players from there when I was at Babson. One was Pete DeMario, who scored a huge series-winning goal at Plattsburgh State when I was at Babson. The other guy was Mike Tetro, who was a goalie. I had so many great visits over the course of my career with John Gardner. And then, whoever would have thunk it, I would have been the head coach of the Hartford Whalers, and my office was in John Gardner's rink at Avon.
Wow.
Yeah. And we, it was great too. And the Whalers, Richard Gordon owned it there, and Dave and I were captains of the soccer team. So they renovated that whole rink. So I just remember, I'll never forget when the LA Kings showed up and everybody skipped class. And it's the only 2 people I've ever seen smoke cigarettes while they were skating on the ice is Dennis Leary and Jay Miller. And he came over and he just had a dart on there and he put it out and he's talking to the kids, and McSorley's over, and Bernie Nichols comes walking in with a mink coat, and I'm, it's 1980 something. And it was interesting because the Whalers left 2 years later, and they left this state-of-the-art facility and resources to the rest of the Avon, the varsity team there. So talk about a recruiting tool on top of having John Gardner there. And, obviously Brian Leach, my dad, I played for Jack Leach. So, I know that family really well, and we all kind of went there because Brian went there. So I cherish those moments at Avon, and the hockey alumni. They were a very, very tight crew, and we're all praying for John.
You always put a whip on St. Sebastian's, but I'll let that
go. Yeah.
Todd, you've been amazing.
Yeah,
I can't wait to spend more time with you. You've been great. Keith Pelly was singing your praises gigantically yesterday.
Oh yeah, he is that guy. He's made me want to be a better guy and better person. And there is nobody better for that job. And quite frankly, he should be the Prime Minister of Canada. And I mean that. I'm serious.
He's amazing. He really was.
From your mouth to God's ears, man.
Yeah. And he lit up. When we mentioned you, Toddy. He lit up.
And he has no idea that he's the king of Canada. I tell him all the time. Like, he brought me up to, and I'll let you go. We went up to his lake house, and we're just hanging out, and he's over weed whacking and everything. And then he's like, hey, you want to go with me? We got to go down to the middle. We're in Peterborough, Minden. And we go into town. And I'm like, what are we doing? And he's like, hey, we're going to buy a boat. Now I'm thinking we're going to get rafts or like paddle boards to the lake. Oh, no. We walked in. He's looking around at a pontoon boat. He bought a boat within another 15 minutes. Like, no big deal. Like, it was just, and went back to weed whacking. I'm looking, this guy is at the helm of the empire. It was phenomenal, but he's incredible. He's been unbelievable to me. And I've enjoyed working with him on the Birmingham City thing. It was a lot of fun.
Great stuff.
Pelly came to my house once in the summer to play in a golf event, and we lost on the last hole because he couldn't putt.
Oh, yeah?
He threw his putter in the water. All the guests at the tournament were saying, nice person you brought to the event, McGuire. So this is what Keith did, and I told this story to Jimmy yesterday.
Yeah.
He got up, and he stand in front of the podium and said, ladies and gentlemen, my name's Keith Pelly. I'm going to buy everybody the first round. It's on me. And I apologize for my behavior. I'm not kidding you.
Yeah.
He did that.
Yeah.
That sounds
I could see that. He's just a great man. And I'll just, Murph, if I got 2 more seconds here, I'll just tell you.
Yeah, you got time, man. We got time.
Yeah, I won't go down the long, but anyway, I get connected through him with Jay Monahan, and I'm going over to London because I'm meeting with.
You got to tell who Jay Monahan's ahead of the PGA Tour.
Sorry. And so Jay connected me with him and I was heading over to London, and I just wanted to meet Keith, and I was going over there to meet with Liverpool owners, and Billy Hogan. I played at Trinity with the CEO, so. Keith insists that I stay at his house. He couldn't pick me out of a 2-person lineup, but just Jay Monahan just put the stamp on me. So here I am, staying at his house and bring your club. So we go to play Wentworth. It's just he and I teeing off. He's like, what's your handicap? I'm like, I'm a 15. And he's like, okay. First hole is one of the most difficult holes. I hit a bomb down the middle, and I was just happy I had a witness. Stuck pin. I hit a 7-iron, spin it back to the pin, and I make a par. Second hole, par. Then birdie. So now I know this guy doesn't know. I'm like, this guy thinks I'm hustling him. So we get to like the 6th hole, and I said, Keith, listen, I know what you're thinking. This is the greatest 4 holes I've ever played, but I trust you. Just the real Todd Carroll will show up. 2 holes later, RPGs going left and right. By the 3 holes later, I had to call in and get a burger and a case of Pro V1s. And I said, I told you, Keith, that was just, yeah. But I know what he was thinking. He's like, this guy's coming to my house and he's sandbagging me. But it was the greatest 4 holes I've ever played in my life.
Hey, Todd, did you get a chance to meet his neighbor?
Justin?
No, the other guy, the Rory McIlroy guy.
Oh, I didn't get to see. No, I met Justin. I didn't get to see Rory there. No. But he's got a nice setup there at Wentworth, and it's unbelievable.
I was on the phone with Pell in probably the fall or the summer, and I hear this banging, and it's dinner time overseas. I'm like, Pell, what's going on? He goes, it's my neighbor working on his house. I go, tell your neighbor to buzz off. Like, this is ridiculous. He goes, yeah, my neighbor's Rory McIlroy. Why don't you go tell him?
I know. It's so funny, too, like, and I'm sure he talked about it. Obviously I know what Jay Monahan was going with through the PGA, but when people knew I met Keith, and Keith and I talked quite a bit as he was kind of going through the process, and people were like, geez, do you think he can handle this job? And I'm like, guys, he just dealt with the Saudis, and then dealing with the Chinese trying to buy Birmingham City. I go, I don't think he's worried about a beat writer right now, like with Toronto. I mean, this is not to say that the media in Toronto isn't hard, but the stuff he had to do over there with the DP World Tour and all those different countries with and with the PGA and the DP World Tour and the game of golf completely getting disrupted. I mean, I would imagine, and this job's hard, right, that he has there. There's a lot of other stuff going on other than just the Maple Leafs. He's got the Argos. They have a huge concert business and anything. But like that gig over there at the DP World Tour, and I saw it, up close. That was a behemoth to handle, and not to mention the Ryder Cup as well, And so, not to say that MLSE is a walk in the park, but he's battle tested for that job, and he's the right guy for sure.
Yeah, and you can see the way it's trickling down right now with that team, with everything they've done this year. So it's great stuff. Listen, Toddy, always a pleasure, my friend. We'll get you on again soon, and if you got some Liverpool connections, you got a fan here.
Let's go. I'm going to go. My 50th, my wife's like, what are we doing for your 50th? I said, well, I'm going to Paris with the boys to see Liverpool, Real Madrid. She's like, you're going to Paris without me? And I'm like, well, you can come. And I knew she wouldn't come with the guys I was going. But yeah, I'll be over there a couple times. So let me know if you guys want to hop in. All right.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds
All right.
good.
See you, Todd. Thanks.
Thank you. See you guys.
Todd Carroll
Bye.
joined us here on the eye test. I told you he'd have you laughing there, TRA. Oh my
Oh, that was
gosh.
good. Lots of good thoughts about Keith. Lots of good thoughts about Todd. And my biggest takeaway from that, the energy that he has for Coach John Gardner.
Yeah.
Coach Gardner is the winningest coach in the history of New England prep school hockey. He just passed probably a year ago Kenny Martin, who's a real special friend of mine
Yep.
at Belmont Hill. And, again, I go back to when John coached Brian Leach.
Yeah.
I remember watching the game Leach was playing in, and I remember calling somebody and saying, I don't know if like prep school players can go in the first round or not. I don't know. But if this guy can't go in the first round, then I don't think I should be in this business because he's way too good. He's way too good. And eventually Phil Esposito and the New York Rangers took him.
Oh, Phil was with them then. That's right.
Yeah.
Wow. Brian Leach. Yeah, that's one heck of a player there. I'll tell you that.
Oh, man. You should have, Jimmy, at prep school, like it was insane. And look at Ronick was insanely good. The Fusco brothers at Belmont Hill were off the charts. Chris Biotti at Belmont Hill was crazy good. Like there were a lot of guys. Lane McDonald at the University School in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I saw all these guys play. I'm just telling you straight up, Leach was the best prep school player I ever saw. It doesn't mean he was the best NHLer. He was really good.
Oh, he was up there,
But
though.
the best prep school player I ever saw was him.
That's awesome. That's great. I mean, I didn't see him play when he's in prep school, but I take it your word. I mean, the best player I saw, I got to see him firsthand all the time, was Mike Greer, the GM of the San Jose Sharks, when he was playing
at St. Sebastian's. Michael was really good. He was,
and
really
I saw
good.
Monty and Ronick play actually at Thayer. So no, I'll put them there and then Greer. But yeah, there's some great players that come out of those prep school leagues, man.
I'll tell you one thing about Jeremy. Jeremy was at a whole other level at the forward position at that time.
He was insane.
He was so much better than the other kids. And Mike Keenan took him. Mike Keenan took him in the first round in Chicago.
We had Mike on the show, remember? And the relationship he said that they formed and the way he kind of reeled him in. I don't think
Mike was rough on him.
Mike.
I'm not sure that would work in the prep schools today. I just don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure about that. Hey, before we get over to our sponsors and our news about the remotes coming up and then our Q&A, Pierre, just quickly, I haven't got a chance to get your take. There's a lot of talk about, what Michael Landlauer said about the preseason games they're going to be playing in Quebec City there. And you touched on it. Seemed like a little power play there to kind of put pressure on the local government in Ottawa to get this project going and get them their arena site. But just, I had an interesting conversation with Bill Daly. I urge everybody to go check it out on RG Media. And as Bill pointed out, the NHL isn't this evil, group that doesn't want hockey to go back to Quebec City. In fact, they would love it. All right. They share the same romantic sentiment about when the Nordiques were there as well. And they didn't want to have to move them out of there. It's just economics and it's the economy and everything. So, and he said to me, look, they've got an amazing arena. And if somebody steps up and wants to pay the expansion fee and comes to us at the table with that, of course we're going to entertain it. So, for those out there that are saying the NHL has completely ruled that out, they hate Quebec, they don't want teams in Canada, it's not true. And I just want to get that out there because there's a lot of stuff flying around right now where I think that the league is taking a beating that I don't think they necessarily deserve.
I'm glad you said that. I am. I'm glad you said that. For years, I know you've listened to me on Melnick. I've always stood up for Quebec.
Yep.
Whether other owners like that or not, I'm not one of the owners, but I can tell you right now, the stewardship that would own a team in Quebec would look after it. Mm-hmm. It wouldn't happen what happened before. And that's not a knock on Marcel Aubu that sold the team. People need to understand the Canadian dollar, as bad as it is now, was worse then. It was worse then. It was down to 60 cents on the dollar. I mean, it was bad. It's really bad. And they got an unbelievable price to move it to, Colorado and to Denver. And they've been amazing stewards of that franchise. They've been fantastic stewards of the franchise. I do think it could work in Quebec, but the dollar can't be like it is now. It can't. It cannot. And that's why I ask all the people that come on that are movers and shakers in the league, and I'm not going to get anybody in trouble. I'm going to say nobody's endorsed on the southern side of the border saying, wow, I could really make it work that way. Jimmy, you've heard what they've said to me. And it's unless you're in Toronto, Montreal, or Vancouver, and maybe Edmonton, this dollar is no good for Canada.
No good right now.
Just no good.
Yeah, I mean, they're worried right now about some current Canadian teams, not ones that used to exist or could exist.
Yeah.
They got to figure this out first. So, I would love it. I mean, I've been up there. I was up there for the World Championships, and I've been up there just to visit. I love it. I love their passion for hockey. I got to be in the old Coliseum. I've not been in the Videotron Center yet. Pierre, you been in there?
Yeah.
It's beautiful, I heard. So
it is.
We can beat that team there, but we'll see what happens. All right, let's get to our sponsors right now. TCS Customs and Logistics. You can go right there right now, and you can unlock the full potential of your shipping operation with TCS Customs and Logistics. From around the corner to around the world, flatbeds to air freight, customs clearance to drawback consulting, TCS is a one-stop shop for all things transport, moving pieces and delivering a peace of mind. For no obligation customs or freight quote, contact sickpodcast at shiptcs.com. Again, that is sickpodcast at shiptcs.com. And of course, our great friends over at Betway. I'll tell you now, man, you can feel it. We're getting in the final run to the Four Nations. The games are getting more important, and it's like playoff hockey every night. So it's fun to bet on right now. Go over there right now. You can go all the way with Betway and get a free bet up to $200 if your first bet loses. Scan the QR code right in front of you, or go to the website, go to the details section, and sign up for a new account. Again, this offer right now is only available for new customers. It is not available in Ontario. You must be 18 plus, and terms and conditions apply. Please play responsibly. Let's go to my sick pick of the night.
It's time for Sick Picks, brought to you by Betway.
Pierre, look, the Tampa Bay Lightning and the LA Kings are hooking up down in Tampa right now. I'm liking a lot of goals in this, and I'm surprised that the over-under is only 5.5. I'm going to say go with the over on that right now for Tampa Bay and LA, over 5.5. And I'm going to say, look, the Philadelphia Flyers, not a great night against New Jersey Devils last night. Devils got a little revenge for that game earlier in the week, and the Flyers will be in action again against the Islanders. They're hosting the Islanders, but they're coming in. They're tired. They're on the tail end of a back-to-back, and the New York Islanders are flying right now. One of the hottest, if not the hottest teams in the NHL. So give me the Islanders on the money line, minus 142. And then you're going to go out in a 9 o'clock start out in Edmonton. The Detroit Red Wings are playing Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers. Now, as Pierre said, I believe it was yesterday, the Toronto Maple Leafs will be in there Saturday. Big hockey night in Canada game. Everyone's looking forward to that. I think the Red Wings catch them sleeping here. Heavy underdog, and I think they pull off the upset. Give me the Detroit Red Wings plus 215 to upset the Edmonton Oilers in Edmonton tonight. All right, let me tell you right now, as Pierre and I have been pushing it, and now we're almost there, Pierre. 3 days away, we will be over at West End Johnny's, 138 Portland Street in Boston, up the street from TD Garden. We're going to be there 3 to 4 p.m. this Monday and the following Monday before the two Beanpot games. Really looking forward to it. I know there's a lot of Huskies, Northeastern fans going to be there, but you can still go in if you're cheering for any of the other schools or you're just a hockey fan. Come on by, say hello to Pierre and I. We're working on some fun guests that might be showing up in person that are Beanpot alumni. Really want to thank our good friend, Johnny Caron, who runs West End Johnny's and Fenway Johnny's over at Fenway Park, and thank Boston Beer Group and of course, their wonderful beer, the Winter Snap. Also, we'll be heading up after the Beanpot to Montreal. We'll be at McLean's Public House, 6 to 7 p.m. before each Four Nations face-off game in Montreal at the Bell Center. So it's about, I'd say, 10, maybe 15-minute walk tops. So, if it's a little cold, you take an Uber. It's no big deal. Go up the street, walk all the way over St. Catharines, all the way up to 1420 Peel Street, McLean's Public House. We'll be there 6 to 7 p.m., working on some guests for there too as well, before every Four Nations face-off game. And then we'll return to Boston for the games there for the semifinals on the 17th. And then the final on the 20th. We'll be at West End Johnny's again, 6 to 7 p.m. Really looking forward to that, Pierre. Let's get to that Q&A. What do we got? All right, Randy Workman, Jimmy and Pierre, have you heard anything on the future of Kuzmenko? I have not.
I have not.
All right. By the way, how about on one Brandon Saad, Pierre? You think he gets picked up fast?
You know what? I think there's one landing spot for him. Edmonton. Edmonton.
I like that.
Because of the relationship with Stan Bowman, the fact that he'll work for less than $1 million a year, and they want to surround that team with guys that have won. He won in 2013. He won in 2015. I don't think any of the insiders have reported that, Jimmy. So nope. I'll just play that. I'll just play the role of insider today. Okay, Jimmy?
Sounds good to me, my friend. Yeah. All right, next question. Max Da Silva. Sorry if I pronounced that right, I hope. Question for Pierre. With the Gooley injury, wouldn't this be good timing to find a right-handed D to play with Hudson for the next few years? For now, it moves Matheson with Carrier. I think I know what Pierre is going to say.
Yeah, Logan Mailloux. I've been saying it since the night that the injury happened.
Yeah.
But I understand, too, to be fair to management there and to the coaches, they want to give Jaden Struble every opportunity. And I totally respect that. And I hope, just like Arbor Jackeye took his second opportunity and ran with it and made himself into a real competent NHL player, I hope Jaden Struble does the same thing. Even though I know he's a left-hand shot, I get that. But it's a perfect marriage down the road with Logan Mailloux. It's a perfect marriage.
For sure. All right, next question. Postnet on 130. What's up? What does Logan Mailloux have to work on to make an impact in the NHL? Pierre, you mentioned that he is too good for the AHL.
Consistency, moving the puck out of his own zone, and consistency recognizing who he has to pick up in defensive zone coverage. Just those two things. Everything else is elite. Really good.
All right, next question. Alex Ivnowski, how familiar are you with the Red Wings second-round pick from 2022, Dmitry Buchnikov? Pierre, I'm going to pronounce
Bushelnikov.
Right. You know what? I'm going to get, what do they call that? Duolingo or whatever? I'm going to get the Russian going on that. The Duolingo. I promise. That's something I'll focus on during the Four Nations. On my ride up to Montreal, I'm going to learn some Russian so I don't murder these pronunciations.
No, listen. Even Russian people murder the Russian pronunciation, so don't worry.
Right. It's respect.
I'm not familiar enough with the player. I'm aware of who the player is. I'm not familiar enough with the player to go out there and say, yeah, he's got to do that. I don't know the player well enough to do that.
Okay. All right. Next question. Marvin Matthews, Jimmy and Pierre. I really thought Anaheim would be better than they've shown thus far this year. What do you think has gone wrong? Hey, we were right there with you, Marvin. We'll admit it too.
Yeah, no, we were expecting. I was expecting a lot more. Now, Cutter Gauthier's playing at the level I thought he would, so he's starting to get going. Took a while though. Troy Terry's had an amazing year for them. Mason McTavish has heated up the last 5 or 6 games. He's been fantastic for them. I think they've had some question marks in goal. They've had some question marks in defense. The trading of Cam Fowler, that changed a lot of what's going. He was an important player there. So there's a lot that went into it. They were dealing with injuries, a Zegras injury in particular, for a while. So they've had some issues. The one thing I know is coaching's not an issue there. The coach is good. I watched their game with Seattle the other night. They were prepared. They played well. They ran Grubauer right out of the net. He's cleared waivers today, I have to think, and he's on his way to Coachella Valley, I would imagine. So, I just think it's a bunch of things. It's not 1 or 2 things. It's like 4 or 5 things that have really affected them.
Yeah. All right. Next question. Randy Workman talking about JT Miller. Should he be a priority? John Tavares, JT. Should he be a priority for the Leafs to sign?
Yeah, because I think Keith Pelly spoke so eloquently about John Tavares yesterday, bringing his children to the press conference, having him show up in Austin Matthews sweaters with the C on the sweater. I mean, just all those things. Classy beyond belief. I think they should try to sign John, and I think they can get John signed at a digestible number so there's enough money to try to get Mitchell Marner back.
All right, next question. Ron LaRoque. So yesterday on Tony's show, Craig Button suggested that Kent Hughes should just pick up the phone and see if Schneider would be available and what price from the Rangers. Thoughts?
I'm a big Braden Schneider fan. I'll tell you this right now, and I've said it a million times. He hadn't gotten better this year.
No.
He's a good player, and he hadn't gotten better. They've played him on the left side. They've played him on the right side. He's better on the right side. And it's painful to watch because he's a good player. He just hasn't taken another step.
Pierre, and look, with all due respect to Craig Button, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but I just, we talk about the Habs all the time here and everything they have coming. I don't know why so many people think they should go get defensemen. I know you can never have enough, but they've got a lot coming and a lot of skill there, and they're going to have a logjam sooner or later. I'm looking at a center position, maybe a guy in the wing, just some muscle. their defense is going to be good.
You got to remember, though, you got to remember the right side for
The
the
right
Canadian
side.
defense.
You're right.
You got to remember the right side. But no, you're not wrong, because Ryan Backer is going to play on the right side, and Mayu is going to play on the right side. But are they going to be ready now? And Schneider's an NHL player.
If you could,
I haven't seen him take the next step. And again, he's not Chris Pronger. Don't.
I know.
But I had Pronger. I had Pronger at 19, and Pronger at the start of his freshman year, first year, and the finish of his first, he was a superstar. He didn't spin his wheels. He got better every day. And I haven't seen Braden get there yet.
All right, next question. Alex Ivanovsky again. Obviously, Schaefer is the star of this upcoming draft by far and away. Who's a couple other players that stand out to you with the highest upside? I keep hearing great stuff about McQueen and Misa.
Yeah, Hagens is good too.
Hagens
is really good. I've seen him a ton this year. He's really good. He's probably going to be Matt Beniers in Seattle with a little bit more speed. And Matt's a good skater, but that's what I think Hagens will be. So that's a very competent player. Misa, I think, is going to be a real good player. I need to see McQueen more. That's not his fault. That's my fault.
Yeah.
You get overwhelmed doing all these different things. You just don't have enough time.
All right, next question. Ron LaRoque. So did Pierre know that Pittsburgh holds the record for most games with two different players scoring hat tricks in a single game? The answer is 8.
Pierre did not know that. Pierre did not know that. And I'm really glad that you brought that to my attention. I would wonder how many of those players I had the privilege of working with. I'm going to think that Yager, Lemieux.
Maybe Stevens,
Recchi. I mean,
Pocket, maybe?
I don't think Dickey. No, I don't think Dickey would have been one of those guys. But there were a few. Maybe Mullen. Mullen might have been one of them. So.
Did you ever go? Straka was after your time, right?
Well, I helped draft Marty.
Okay.
And I had Marty in Ottawa.
Oh, all right. There you go. I remember him.
Yeah.
He had some skill. All right. Next question.
You know what? Marty?
Yep.
Marty owns a golf and tennis club in the Czech Republic in Pilsen. You know Pilsner Urquell, the beer?
Yeah.
That's where it's brewed. But Marty owns a hotel and tennis and golf place there.
Good stuff. By the way, speaking of Czech and speaking of Yager, there was a great video going around yesterday on Twitter. Yager's mom, I think she's like 79 or something, out on the ice, skating around. And people are just like, man, what is in their blood? Like, what is in their genes? Like,
well, they're a farming family and very powerful people, physically powerful. The father, the mother, the son, obviously.
Okay.
Amazing. Yeah, amazing people.
Great stuff. All right, next question. Simone LeBlanc. Do you think Center Desnoyers is a top 10 draft pick?
His Denoy is his name. He's from St. Hyacinthe. His brother was drafted by the Philadelphia Flyers. His dad played with Marty Brodeur in St. Hyacinthe. I know the family pretty well. My son played with Elliott in youth hockey in Quebec. He could, but I see him more between 10 and 15. Doesn't mean he can't. Doesn't mean that, because I know that he's had a real good year out in the Maritimes. But I just want to see where all the European guys kind of fall in. But he's a really talented kid. Really, really talented.
All right, we got 2 more questions. What do we got? Randy Workman, Jimmy and Pierre, have either of you seen Jake Boltman, Northeastern Huskies play? I'd say Pierre's seen him a little.
I trained him all summer this summer. Tremendous kid out of Notre Dame, football family from Edina, Minnesota. His brother's the assistant coach for the University of North Dakota in football. His father was a big-time football player in university in the United States. Comes from a farming family just outside Minnesota, and they moved into Edina. The mother's a school teacher. So I think I know a lot about him, and my son and he are very good friends and teammates. Jake was drafted by Calgary in the 3rd round in the 2020 draft. He was not signed last year. He's a 5th year at Northeastern. Physical, big, really tough kid, really tough. But I don't think Calgary will sign. I don't think he'll be getting signed by Calgary.
All right. And this, I think, is our final question. What do we got? Morant, gentlemen, in your opinion, should the Habs make the wild card? Do you think they stand a good chance of winning a playoff series I think anything can happen. Depends on the matchup, obviously, but hey, let me tell you, covering the Boston Bruins, I've seen 8-seeded and 7-seeded Montreal Canadiens teams do some damage on those top seeds. So anything can happen.
I just think one step at a time. Let's remember they're still in the middle of a rebuild.
Got to get there.
Let's just take our time and evaluate day to day. Tonight's a big game against a team that played an emotional, hard game last night in Toronto. Minnesota played really well.
And Pierre, it's also going to be a very emotional game for them tonight. They're going to want to win it for the Flower because it's Marc-Andre Fleury's last game, unless by a lottery it is a Stanley Cup final between the Habs and the Wild. This is his last game at the Bell Center in his home province. So he's going to be revved up for that. And I think, I don't know if they still do it, but as they used to say, there's some money on the board tonight, I would think.
There might be.
Yeah, just a little. All right. Anyhow, we want to thank Todd Carroll for joining us here. Thank everybody in the Q&A section for your amazing questions, as always. And thanks to all our listeners and viewers. And, of course, to our great studio staff up in Montreal. Pierre, tomorrow, we've recorded already. So just for everyone that watches tomorrow, there won't be a Q&A there, but you're going to want to tune in anyways, because we had a great interview with AIC head coach Eric Lang. And, what I came away from with that interview is that is a really good human being and a loyal human being. And you'll know what I mean when you watch the interview and what he's doing for his players after their team was forced to go to Division II. And also, Pierre, what he's doing for players in general, just for the game of college hockey. He cares. And that's going to really come out in that interview. So I urge you to watch it there tomorrow on Campus Friday here in the eye test. Pierre, I know you're off to Orono. Enjoy, my friend. Mm-hmm. And I will see you in person next show we do.
You will on Monday.
Johnny's.
We'll be talking before then.
Oh, yes.
Before we go, I just want the Simpson family and friends and anybody that knew Sean to know that Jimmy and I are thinking of them at this really difficult time. And it's not easy to deal with stuff like that. And I just want the family to know we're really thinking about them a lot.
Yep. And he was always good to me, a good man. We are thinking of you, and we want to thank everyone for tuning in here to another edition of the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.